this will be my first time doing a video, and what I'm doing is I'm getting ready to start a project. I'm doing a necklace for a donation that I had made, and it's time to get it going. And so, getting everything all ready to go, I have an air concentrator, which is what the noise is that you're hearing, and the air concentrator with the minor torch is enough oxygen to work with the Moretti glass. And one of the things I have to do is get the flow correct, because it kind of varies initially, but eventually we get enough oxygen for it to burn steady. So what I'm making is what I kind of call a Damascus beads. They're basically striped beads, and today is just the first step, which is to make the striped cane. And so I have the colors that I'm going to be working with, which is going to be a black, which actually is a deep, deep purple, a gray, and white. The white will be the base, and we'll get started. So the first step is to create a pretty large gather. So once I get the glass prepped, I'll go ahead and melt it down to create a gather, and that's going to form the base color of the bead, which is going to be white. And then I'll add other colors to it. So I'm hoping the battery on the iPad lasts me long enough, because the charger is not always able to keep up with some of the heavier uses. So like with most beads, you're going to create a gather, but in this case, I'm going to create a fairly decent sized gather. Need my pliers. This was a technique I kind of ran across doing my searches on YouTube. What I'm going to do is, once I form the gather, flatten it into kind of a paddle shape. And I think we're about there. And so before I flatten, I'm going to let it cool down just a little bit, form a little bit of a film back on the skin, and then flatten it out. Keep these up so I'm not shocking the glass too much. And I'm just making kind of a lollipop at first. And I want to actually shape it a little bit. That way the colors will be added on a little more evenly, which will give me more uniform stripes on them. Now I want the paddle to be about the same size as the glass rod. That way there's less chance of creating an uneven heating areas where it's going to thermal shock. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding some glass. So I'm going to put the gray on, and what I'm going to do is actually coat most of the white in on the edges in the gray. And just keeping the white glass under the heat, keep it warm enough to work with. And basically paint the glass on. And be pretty generous. after a while you get used to how the glass is going to look depending on where you add the glass and how much you add to the glass. I'm going to put a stripe down the middle too. See what it looks like. Maybe a little more color. You want to apply it so it's as even as possible all the way across the line that you're adding. So I just added the gray stripes to it. And go ahead and add black over the top. So we'll add that over the gray. That's in the middle. And so black is added. So now we have the gray with the black over the top. And now what I'm going to do is just start melting it down. Pretty large piece of glass, so it takes a little time, and you want to try and make it as uniformly heated as possible. Again, just helps with the thermal shock, especially since I've got the thin cane now holding it, serving as kind of a plenty. And I have a second piece of white glass which will form the other end when I'm ready, which is not quite yet. So I'll prep the other piece of white cane. Attach them together. So the pieces are now welded together. And now, using both pieces, I'm going to go ahead and heat up the whole thing. It's not unlike Murini, where you're going to heat the entire gather together as uniformly as possible so you can draw it and all the colors draw out as even as we can make it. So it's very similar to that process. Big thing is make sure as you turn it, you're trying to turn it as equally as possible, because if you turn one side faster, you're going to notice that because you're going to start twisting the glass, which we want to do, but not quite yet. Now it's definitely molten. I'm pushing it together just a little bit. There's no particular stripes. before. So I'm going to let it heat up, let it cool down a little bit, and then just start twisting. Heat it up a little more. You will get some texture as you twist. Trying to take a little bit of it out. And then, again, start twisting and drawing. If you want lots of stripes, you twist fast. If you want less stripes, slower. I'm trying to get a little more out of that side. That way there's less waste. I haven't done this for a while, so they're definitely going to not be as even as it could be. But again, that's kind of the uniqueness of the bead. Off. Other side. I don't have to anneal these. Actually, I pretty rarely break. And since I'm going to use them on the beads anyway and wrap them, so you can see I have a variety of stripes. Gray with the black over. As it cools down, the colors will come out a little more sharply.